Hey, 614Black. We're here at Burgerim, a Black-owned business here in downtown Columbus. We're going to meet with the owner, as well as talk with Mia Cunningham, the owner of MC Social, as well as the creator of Trap Trivia. Come on, let's go. Hey, 614Black, we're here with Mia Cunningham.
Hi.
The owner of MC Social, as well as the creator of Trap Trivia.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
You know what, I can't complain.
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad
I appreciate
you're
it.
here. Thank you for coming, actually.
My pleasure. I'm
Yes.
excited to do it. So,
Perfect. What are you drinking?
I think
Like
Crown
booze?
Ciroc and pineapple. I had Ty just make me something pretty, so I think that's what she threw in there.
That should be a drink name.
It should be.
Make me something
Make me something pretty.
There we go. There we
You
go.
hear that, Ty?
She's going to write it down now. It's going to be on the list. She's like, that's my idea. That was me. You got to give me credit for that.
I know, that's right.
She should. Anywho, so tell me about you. So are you native to Columbus?
I'm actually kind of an all-around Ohio girl. So I was born here in Columbus.
Okay.
But when I was 5, moved to Cincinnati. So I spent my formative years through high school in Cincinnati. And then I went to undergrad in Toledo and then came back to Columbus to raise my son.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. Sweet.
Yep.
So what are your highlights about the city? What do you enjoy about the city?
Well, for me, it had been a wonderful place to be closer to family, raise my son in a very affordable environment, very safe environment. So I spent a lot of my time in the Dublin area. So my son went to Dublin schools. And then once he graduated, I was kind of just able to discover some things about the city for myself that weren't necessarily family oriented. So I really got into the restaurant scene here. There was a couple restaurants downtown specifically that I love that have since gone out of business, but I do find that you can still find ways to be entertained. I'm a fan of the theater, so I love the Ohio Theater and the Palace Theater and what they bring to the city. And I've just found Columbus to be a really progressive, kind of cool place to be.
So tell us more about your dream of MC Social and how that came up for you.
So, as I mentioned, after raising my son, I was really looking for just some ways to have kind of a different social or entertainment experience. So I started traveling like a lot. So he graduated in 2017. And I think the fall of that year, I found myself in Texas, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and we were looking for something to do. And so we went to an event right in the city. We're pulling up all the options, and they were having a Martin-themed trivia night at the House of Blues.
Really?
I love Martin. So that's yeah, I love that show. So we went to check it out, and before we even got into the building, like I heard music, and because it was the House of Blues and there's so many different ballrooms, I didn't make the connection. I'm like, well, there must be something else going on.
Right.
So we got into the building and got into our ballroom. The music was for the trivia.
Really?
So it was kind of like this combination of two things that I love, music and trivia. Like I grew up playing trivia, Trivial Pursuit. My major is actually in history, so I love history, just kind of facts. And so it was this marriage of these two things that I love, and the whole vibe was just like fantastic. So we ended up.
I should do something like that.
Well, I'm like, I don't remember anything like this, experiencing anything like this in Columbus. So I actually reached out to the promoter. And so, I tried to talk him into coming here, and for whatever reason, like we just could not connect. So I got to thinking, I was like, I know a few people.
2 or 3 people.
I know a couple of folks, maybe I can do this myself. So I started fleshing out the plan for it. And that was maybe December of 2017.
Okay.
And by September of 2018, not only did I have my plan formulated, but I had my team together. And we launched and had our first event November of 2018.
Now, was that Trap Trivia to what we know now, or was that a different? Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah. So it's evolved in terms of the technology that we're using, but at its core, it's been the same. So the combination of trivia questions. I do have a host that comes out and asks questions of the audience, and we have a DJ that accompanies the answers to the questions, sometimes the questions, and so it just kind of evolved into this thing, and it's gotten its own following that's pretty consistent, I would have to say. So So, that's how I had the pleasure of getting introduced and knowing you. So it's taken me by surprise, to be honest with you. At first, it was something that I thought was just going to be kind of like a hobby, but it's evolved beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much better than what the options can be from time to time. I personally don't do clubs.
Yeah.
I can't twerk to save my life. I have bad knees. So I'm just like, can we just do something where we're sitting?
Yeah.
Or maybe bowling, something that's just entertaining.
You have been an avid supporter of Trap Trivia, and I have been curious, like, what keeps you coming back, time and time again? Like,
no, I mean, it's a family now.
Yeah.
It's 100% a family now. So, one of the most recent events that you did do, I happened to meet a whole new part of our family. It's like, oh, we've been coming for forever. I was like, really? It's like, so now I sit with them. So it's like you sit with them, you have drinks with them, and you talk to them outside of this, and you get to make more connections that way. It's kind of hard. I feel like Columbus is an amazing place, but I feel like it's very word of mouth.
Yes.
So you may not know what's going on, but once you get a thread of somebody who's doing something, then you can kind of be like, oh, well, this is going on.
It's my little tribe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that about trivia.
Wonderful.
Really what you guys bring.
Thank you.
Yeah. What do you think, more or less, is the main components of what makes you different than other trivia nights just in general? Same question.
I'm a secret sauce. But in all sincerity, other events that I've been to don't have the combination of those elements that I've been to. So, I think when people think of trivia, they think of something that's more static, like Jeopardy style, like R.I.P. Alex Trebek.
Right.
Oh my gosh. But we've managed to combine, questions that are specific to our experience. And make them fun. So we ask questions in a variety of different ways. My host is incredibly engaging. He knows how to really get people involved and pull them into the experience. And then to have the music combined with that, it just creates this vibe. And for anybody that I know that's been to Trap Trivia, they have a difficult time describing it, but they know it's a feeling.
It's rowdy.
It's like it can get a little live.
We get a little intense.
And what I appreciate about it, in all sincerity, is our demographic is about like 35 and older. And to your point earlier, it's a nice alternative if you're not into the bar, like lounge or club scene. You just want to come out and be social. And the vast majority of the people that come are working professionals. And where you're in these environments where you're buttoned up, during the week, or if your families or your spouses, we all have roles that we play. It seems like this is a space for people to come and just unload, and there's no judgment.
Maybe there's a little.
Not that they told me.
Yeah.
But to your point too, like, friends have become family. Like, people have really gotten acquainted with one another because I think they're such like minds. And so it's just been a joy for me to sit back and watch, because it's evolved beyond what I had imagined it could be. So it makes us a little different. We're a family.
Yeah, that's definitely 100% true.
Yeah.
I mean, people dancing on tables from time to time.
Yeah, that happens.
If it comes to that.
If
it comes to that.
And we just let them roll.
Right.
So,
right. It's like just
insurance is paid up.
Right. No one's fallen yet.
Thank God.
Yes, with the alcohol and everything being served, we're good. Yeah, we really enjoy it. How did you land on Burgerim as your main location for where you have the trivia nights?
So we started out at a different location. So I think maybe our first 3 or 4 events were held at that location, and it got to a point where it was evident that we needed to look at some other options. And I wanted to find ways to support Black businesses in Columbus. And so as I was doing my research, I had actually been to Burgerim several times and fell in love with the space. So I thought it would be conducive to what we wanted to do. And then it's kind of a central location. So a lot of our pull, demographic-wise, we pull from the east side a lot, but we also pull a lot from like Hilliard. Mm-hmm. And so it was centrally located. So I reached out to Ron and Ty to see what I needed to do to reserve space here. And we met shortly thereafter, and honestly, Ron and I hit it off, and the rest, as I say, is history. So, yeah, it's been this great relationship. They go above and beyond, I think, to make sure that we're comfortable, we have what we need, take great care of our patrons when they're here. And so, yeah, it's been a great relationship, and one that I'm very, very thankful for.
get to know Mia and getting set up with Trap Trivia here at Burgerim?
It was through a friend. She was doing it somewhere else. I told my buddy of mine, it's a mutual friend of ours, that I wanted to do more events here. I thought it was a great way to drive traffic, create marketing, and do something with the space. Her and I sat down. I believe we hit it off, right? And I gave her some what I call rondé wisdoms of business. And I don't know, a month later, we rolled it out. I've done several events outside of Trap Trivia, and Trap Trivia, no offense to anyone else, is one of my favorites. So it is what it is, because it's grown folks fun. That's what makes it so cool. So I keep telling her one day I'm going to participate in it.
Too.
Well, I'm such.
I know you're working at the time. But
well, because I like to make sure that it goes off well.
Right.
Reputation in this small town is very important, and you don't have the rep that you do an event with Ron and it's all over the place, right? You want to have something where people say, if you're going to do an event with Ron, he's going to make sure his staff, his crew, everybody's good.
And we are well taken care of.
Yeah, so that's very important to me, right? Because if not, it's you get that reputation. So right now I own Burgerim, but tomorrow I may own, something else, and they be like, Ron owns that? Oh yeah, it's good. So it's about establishing my brand, my personal brand, not Burgerim, but Ron's brand of a good business leader and a good business person, and we take care of our staff and our customers, so it's very important.
Can I interject on that too?
By all means.
So, by relation to him, I've learned a lot about that for myself and for Trap Trivia, and thinking about the consistency and the type of events that I want to put on. I have learned this because I know there's a standard when I come here. I know the staff is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I know the food's going to be incredible. I know we're going to get great bar service. I know the restaurant's going to be clean. I know we're going to be safe.
Yeah.
And so, just by that relationship, it allows MC Social, I think, to have a branding of consistent, events that people have an expectation when they come here and they know what it's going to be, and it keeps them coming back.
Yeah. So,
And you've been here for 3 years.
Yeah.
So now you kind of have your formula of exactly how things work for you, what people want, what people want to see, and exactly what you want to deliver. So that's appreciated.
And again, so you can't say nothing bad about me.
Right.
That's the key, right? Ron, you don't want that. In business, you never want that, especially in towns this small. I'm from Los Angeles originally.
Okay.
So in LA, I can do something in Compton, for an example, and then I'm like, I got a bad rep in Compton, but that's okay. I can go to Inglewood and no one will know me, and I can reinvent myself in the same same county. Here in Columbus, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
It's very easy. People are like, oh, that guy? Oh, I know that guy. And everybody know each other, and it's like, how do you know that? And I'm done with the surprise of people knowing each other in this city. It's crazy. I'm done with it.
And that's also a feat because we live in like a cancer culture society now. So I think it's even more of a feat that he's been able to maintain that, despite that, and with COVID, So there's another layer that,
And how do you think COVID has affected you and your business here?
So the restaurant industry been hit the hardest. Again, like lunch crowd was my biggest piece of the pie during the day. And we don't have a lunch crowd anymore. So now it's making me, the word pivot been like thrown around like, whatever, but we got to pivot. I just got an email saying that the state workers ain't coming back until, they said May 30th was the exact day. So that's June, right? But that's if COVID is under control. Right. And I don't think it will be under control. Even though they're talking about the vaccine, but it takes a long time to distribute that throughout the country. So the business got literally chopped over half. And my other source of revenue that was doing business with Mia, and we had events. So in any given month, I probably had 10 to 15 events to now 0 or 1 or whatever that looks like. So it's definitely, what I tell people is that COVID is the real knockout. That's the knockout punch. I got broken into, that's why we got this thing here. An artist friend of mine painted it for the windows. But people was like, oh, you got broken into, I feel so sorry. I'm like, dude, thanks for being sorry. But insurance companies pay for broken windows, right? They don't pay for COVID.
Right.
I got several projects. So my cook's here now, I'm about to take off. I got some things I got to do. I won't be back until before we close or something. But
Well, I appreciate you sitting down.
no, thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
How do you feel like COVID today?
So let me take a step back.
Right.
So when all of this happened, yeah, we may need another beverage.
Right.
So when I knew we were in trouble was when Arnold got canceled. So I think a couple weeks after our event, Arnold stopped. And if anybody who's familiar with the event in the city, like the city literally shuts down. I think like millions of people come here, and it generates like I think $30 million for the city.
It does. It's Columbus' biggest event.
I'm like,
yes.
I'm like, oh, we in trouble.
A little bit.
So shortly thereafter came, the citywide shutdowns, state shutdowns, and so it was evident to me that I needed to reconsider my calendar for the rest of the year. So at that point, I actually did talk to Ron, and we, in effect, decided to cancel all of our events throughout the calendar year. So during that time, as Ron had mentioned earlier about pivoting, it is this term that you're hearing more and more about. I had to really kind of go back to the drawing board and find other ways to sustain my business through COVID. And so that has looked different than what I initially thought it was going to be, just in terms of exclusively throwing events. But as far as it relates to Trap Trivia, I had to put a pin in it. So once we came out of the first wave of the pandemic and things started to reopen, I had actually put together a safety plan, one that I had researched to kind of get a feel for what industry standards are for businesses that are reopening and they're having larger scale events, and larger scale being more than 10 people.
Right.
What that looked like. So I was invited to participate in a bar crawl, maybe the early onset of October of this past year. So that event I thought went pretty well, and it made me feel more comfortable about bringing Trap Trivia back to the city. So I planned on doing my own event a couple weeks later, which I did, and you were here. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you. But if you remember during the ticket process, like I in essence had a waiver. Right. As to help people understand what the new criteria was, what we're trying to achieve, and how we want to keep people safe. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that, once I identified all the criteria, I'm like, if you can rock with this, you're welcome to come buy a ticket. If not, I wholeheartedly respect that, but this might not be the event for you. Right. So bearing that in mind, came in, everybody was fantastic. They were great about just getting comfortable with the new normal, so to speak, because we did not have table service any longer, so everything was self-serve. So people had to go and order their food and their drink and then bring it back to their table, which is different than what we have become accustomed to. But I don't remember hearing a peep from anybody. Like everybody just seemed to really just kind of lean in and be very gracious with the fact that this is a new landscape. Right. So I really appreciated that. Yes.
I was trying to get out of the house. I was like, yes.
And you were not alone in that. So it was evident that everybody was just looking for like a way to just kind of release. And so I was grateful that we could provide that.
I really appreciate that you had the opportunity to come down and talk to me. And
pleasure.
We could talk about all of the good things. What do you think is next in your future with everything?
Well, at this point, event-wise, I'm not sure, like in the immediate future. But what I have been doing is continuing to cultivate relationships in the business community here in Columbus, and actually some other cities as well. So my plan is, once we get back to some semblance of normalcy, after we have a vaccine and it's safe for people to come back out, we just gonna come out firing. We're gonna be ready to go. So we'll have some great events, in the chamber ready to go. But as of right now, we're just gonna, because the numbers here in Ohio are ridiculous. Right. And so, just in an effort to keep myself and everybody safe, I'm just gonna put a pause on it.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
But regardless, when you start back up, I'll be there.
Yes, thank you. I know, so, I count on you.
We're good on that. I'm like, I enjoy a good time, so
yes, for sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for your support and for the opportunity to be here and talk a little bit more about MC Social and what we have to offer.
So how do we find out more information about MC Social and what will come up next eventually once everything's all laid to rest?
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and my call number is @MC Social Events. So you can go on there to look at just footage of our previous events. And as information does come available about what we'll be doing next, it can be found there. So yes, that's where my good stuff lives.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll definitely stay tuned for that, and hopefully
Thank you.
something will be coming up soon.
Yes, I appreciate it.